It's time to spill
the tea.
Hello!
You there, and welcome to
A Spoonful of Theatre. And this is another one of our Spill the Tea theatre review episodes where we review a local Singapore production right outside the theatre. I'm TJ, theatre practitioner and director.
And I'm Sam, a teacher of language, literature and self-proclaimed show business lovey. And yes, we are right outside the KC Arts Centre, right in the centre of Singapore. TJ, what have we just watched?
We have just watched Sightlines' production of The Pillowman. Much anticipated. Not the play's first time in Singapore, but a brand new restaging of the show by Sightlines with an all-male cast and a very interesting production indeed. So, Sam, first thoughts?
First thoughts. I'm going to go straight into first thoughts, but with a bit of a proviso with this one. I had a wonderful show, but I had an awful night in the theatre. Now, I'm going to stick a pin in my night in the theatre for another day, and I thank you to TJ for you telling me earlier, one's experience with a performance and one's experience in a theatre can be two different things at the same time, so I thank you for that, and that is something we'll broach at another time. But
let me just clarify, he's annoyed with the audience around him, but we'll talk about that another time. Anyways, the show, first thoughts.
So, as I was going to say, yes, let's go on to the first thoughts of the show. I had a really interesting and fascinating night in the theatre. Really fascinating and really interesting. I'm up in my head at the moment. I'm kind of in a place where I'm like, what did I just watch? What did it all mean? But I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but it took me time to get there. How are you feeling, TJ?
I'm going to be honest, I've had a very long week, so I think everyone can relate to this, that you approach theatre in how much energy you have during the week, and I was rather tired going into the show, and it is a rather wordy play itself, so I did find that aspect of having to concentrate. It's quite a hard show. You've really got to pay attention and kind of do a lot of thinking, and when you're not necessarily in the most energetic headspace, I found that a bit challenging tonight for myself, so I'm going to frame all of my thoughts from that angle and be very honest about that, because I think we've all had those nights in the theatre where you've had a long week, but I think overall how I would frame this show is there was a lot of interesting creative choices made. So for me, this play took me back to my drama school days, because the creative choices that they'd made were changing the play and the setting and the use of the characters and the use of the actors in an interesting way that's not kind of the original. So they had 6 actors that were constantly changing role, and the use of the set was very interesting. They had this 2-part set system that was often showing 2 worlds. I feel like when you play with ideas that are that strong, you're either gonna love it or hate it, and it's either gonna work or it's not. And I appreciate when companies take a bold risk to try new things. So I will frame it there. As we get into it, you'll see I didn't necessarily think everything worked in those perspectives, but I absolutely applaud the director and Sightlines for giving it a go, and the whole company for rolling with some very challenging choices on the stage tonight.
I'm in agreement with you there. I think it was very bold, very risky, very unique. And what I mean by that is that what they've done on the stage tonight, I think that could have only been done on stage. I don't think it would have worked in a television medium or a movie medium or something like that. Narratively speaking, story speaking, well, that's what the whole play is about. It's about stories, but it takes the audience through the looking glass, and it can be very, very confusing. Especially with the changeover of the actors, and with that, I like to think of a Star Trek quote. It's infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and that's what I've seen on the stage tonight, is infinite diversity and infinite combinations in terms of storytelling, in terms of acting and ensemble. Whether it all worked all the time, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
So let's jump into the acting, shall
Yes.
we? So 6 very experienced, very talented actors. I've seen all of them in other guises on different shows. And you could tell that actually as a company, I think they did work very well together. And they are 6 very detailed actors that work together very well. However, because of the choice of everybody playing every character in the show, I think everybody gave it their best to try and make all of these characters work. But at various points throughout the show, there were moments where I was like, that person doesn't suit that character. Whether it be physically, you would have cast that person physically as that role, whether it be just their energy. I don't think any moments were terrible in any way, but I just think at times I was like, this doesn't feel right, or this chemistry maybe with these 2 people in this bit of the scene isn't working. And that actually drew me out of the show, and I didn't really ever connect with the characters like I would have done if it was the traditional staging of one actor and you get used to their mannerisms and their emotions and their voice. You're constantly playing catch up, and I did spend the first half an hour going, what the heck is going on? And when I finally got to it, I was like, okay, because that wasn't really explained in the program either, in the director's notes, which I did read before the show. So I did struggle with that a little bit. A bold choice, but I don't think worked every single moment of the show. What about you, Sam?
I agree with you there. Sometimes the changes were very quick, and the whole dynamics would change at that time. So it's a quick and sharp change in dynamics, and sometimes the consistency would go out the window there. But sometimes the performances were really powerful. They were really, really strong. And sometimes the combinations worked really, really well. But as they're changing, as those dynamics changed, sometimes it didn't work so well. So you do lose... The boys are trying to maintain that characterization, and they are putting their own spin on it, their own approach, their own acting approach to it. But there's still that sharp shock of, wait a minute, you're the same character, but you're a different actor, and you're portraying it in a different way, but you're still telling the same story. What's going on? So that happens throughout the entire 2 hours and 45 minutes.
The length was a thing for me as well.
I think I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think it is a very long play.
Yes.
And if you are not in a mood to concentrate and focus, I think it's a slog. It is a long slog.
Companies in Singapore rarely take risks. Everyone plays it safe because we have short runs. We want to do the best we can do. So I really applaud Sightlines for taking a risk with new staging, with different ways of working. And I love to see that actually as well. As much as I don't think everything worked at every time, I do love it to see it. So I genuinely do applaud it from a creative aspect. In terms of the creatives as well, the set I think was interesting. I've actually never seen anything like that in terms of like coming through that sort of screens. They did a lot of like this 2-sided thing, but because a lot of it ended up being staged behind a screen upstage, almost like blurry, there's subtext you could read into it, but also I just lost connection with what was being told quite a lot. But I did like the use of the sound effects. Actually, I thought the sound in the show was very interesting. It really took me into a world. Also did relax me quite a lot and really relaxed me into my seat. But the sound effects were really nice, and there was just subtle effects as they were changing characters and things, that just a little sound effect that you barely even noticed unless you were tuning in. And I think the sound design really was excellent in the show. Lighting, I think, was quite simple, but I think probably needed to be for the way it was staged, but worked, I suppose, for what the show needed. What about you, Sam, with anything with the creatives?
Sound design was also one of the things that I picked up as well. It really added to the darkness and grittiness of the story, especially in the storytelling. There was that horror element to it, that gruesomeness, that haunting in the sound design that really punctuated the story that, or sorry, I should say the stories that were being told on the stage. So yeah, sound design was a real key highlight of this play. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, as you know by now, myself and TJ, after we have seen a production, we always give it a spoonful rating. But TJ and I never reveal how many spoonfuls we are going to give until the moment has come. And now that moment has arrived. So on the count of 3, TJ, how many out of 5 spoonfuls are we giving? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 3. There we go.
Aligned.
All right. So why was it a 3 for you, TJ?
So that 3 to me just reflects, like, I had a good night at the theatre, but there was things that I think were not my favourite, but I think it's still a great show to go and see. What about you, Sam?
For me, I really enjoyed how it sucked me in as an audience member. At the beginning, I wasn't sure about it, but through the first act and definitely into the second act, I was completely and utterly hooked into the story. But really from a place of what the hell is going on. But that's me wanting to know more. It was funny. It was dark. As I say, it was some of the combinations worked with the acting, and it was just a really interesting, fascinating, and unique way of storytelling on the stage. So that's why it's a 3 for me. Now then, TJ, how long's the run?
The Pillowman by Sightlines is playing at the KC Arts Centre until the 24th of May, and you can get your tickets on Sistic.
Right, my tea's gone cold, love. Should we leave it there?
Absolutely.
Right, so that's cheerio from us. We'll be back soon.
And it's hurrah from me.
And to the cast and crew of Sightlines production of Pillowman.
And anybody else performing on a Singapore stage soon, break a leg.